Nobody saw it coming. Not the producers, not the pundits, and certainly not Elon Musk. What was supposed to be a simple debate on free speech turned into a televised meltdown. Karoline Leavitt wasn't invited to take down the world's richest man, but that's exactly what she did. With nothing but facts, fire, and one brutal question, she exposed the cracks in Musk's empire and made him crumble, live, in front of millions. This is the moment Elon Musk will never live down. It started as theater, one of those high-profile panel debates that networks love to stage. Glitzy backdrop, A-list guests, and a moderator desperate to go viral. The topic was the future of free speech in America. The draw? Elon Musk, CEO of X, formerly Twitter, Tesla, SpaceX, and half the tech sector. He arrived to applause, wearing his usual smirk and a designer jacket that looked like it cost more than the set. The audience was buzzing. The panel included a Harvard professor, a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, a legacy media journalist, and Karoline Leavitt. They put her there as a token voice of the populist right. She wasn't supposed to make waves, just say a few conservative lines and get steamrolled by the tech elite. What they didn't count on. Karoline didn't come to fit in. She came with a plan. From the first question, Elon played his usual game, detached, sarcastic, dismissive. When asked about censorship on X, he shrugged. Free speech is messy. That's the point. He laughed off questions about banning users, labeling accounts, and shadow banning political dissidents. The algorithm is neutral, he said. I don't even read the moderation reports. The audience chuckled. The moderator nodded along. Then Karoline leaned forward. I have a question for Mr. Musk, she said. Her tone was light, but her eyes were locked in. He turned toward her, grinning. Shoot. She tilted her head. You've said free speech is the cornerstone of democracy. Do you still believe that? Of course, Elon replied. More than ever. Karoline nodded slowly. Then why did your platform suspend a sitting congressman for quoting the Bible? A hush fell over the stage. Elon blinked. I'm not aware of that specific instance. Karoline didn't flinch. February 9th, 2025. Congressman Willis posted Romans 1 verse 27. Within hours, his account was locked for hateful conduct. No explanation. No appeal. And your team said, quote, violating norms of community engagement. Was the Bible too offensive for X? Elon squirmed. That sounds like a content moderation decision. I don't handle those directly. Karoline smiled, but it wasn't friendly. You bought the platform, gutted the moderation team, branded yourself a free speech absolutist. And now you're saying you don't read the rules your name is on? He opened his mouth to respond, but she cut him off. You ban Bible verses, boost state media in China, and silence critics of AI, and you call that freedom? The moderator tried to interject, but it was too late. The audience wasn't cheering anymore. They were staring. Because in under 3 minutes, Karoline had turned the richest man on earth into a deer in headlights, on live television. And she wasn't even finished. The camera didn't cut away. It couldn't. Every time the director's finger hovered over the switchboard, Karoline said something sharper, deeper, more damning. She hadn't just prepared for this moment. She'd anticipated it. Must try to pivot. I believe in letting people speak their minds, even if I disagree. That's the principle. We can't micromanage every post. Karoline didn't blink. You don't have to micromanage. But you can't lie either. You claimed neutrality, then personally intervened to reinstate celebrities who promoted your AI lab, while permanently suspending Christian, populist, and independent accounts that opposed your Neuralink agenda. Elon shifted in his chair, glancing toward the moderator, seeking refuge. But the moderator looked stunned too. Karoline pulled out a stack of printed receipts, literal ones. Here are 8 cases, she said, holding them up. 8 verified suspensions of political speech. Every one of them happened after you took over X. Want to explain why 4 of them just happened to include whistleblowers leaking emails about Tesla's cobalt mines? The air snapped. She wasn't accusing Musk of censorship anymore. She was connecting it to profit. Musk laughed awkwardly. This sounds like a conspiracy theory. Karoline leaned in. So, was the Hunter Biden laptop? Until it wasn't. The audience gasped. The journalist on the panel stared at her papers. Are those real? He muttered into his mic. She nodded. All public record. All archived. Your platform scrubbed the originals, but not before we mirrored them. Elon's smirk faltered, and then Karoline dropped the hammer. Let's talk about X's new trust and safety board, she said, flipping through another folder. You quietly installed 3 advisors last month, all with ties to the World Economic Forum. One of them, Marissa Tate, publicly argued in favor of algorithmic restraint for harmful faith-based narratives. That's code for banning Christians. Elon sat frozen. No snark, no smirk, just silence. Did you think no one would notice? That no one would read the fine print buried in your quarterly earnings call? She turned directly to the camera. Elon Musk talks about free speech like it's a marketing slogan. But when it comes to your rights, your beliefs, he's already made up his mind. If it helps the machine, you'll be silenced. If it sells a chip, your faith is the first thing to go. The crowd didn't cheer. They couldn't. They were still processing what they were watching. Not a debate. Not a discussion. A public unmasking. The richest man in the world sat across from a 29-year-old firebrand from New Hampshire, and for the first time in his media-drenched life, Elon Musk looked small. Karoline placed her folders neatly on the table. Your platform used to be a place where people spoke freely. Now it's a sterilized playground for globalist interests. You didn't buy Twitter to liberate speech, she said, voice cutting like glass. You bought it to control it. The moderator stammered, trying to pivot. Well, we're due for a break. But by then, the clip was already going viral. And Elon knew it. Elon Musk wasn't used to being cornered. Not by presidents, not by journalists, and certainly not by someone like Karoline Leavitt. Young, poised, fearless. He had stared down bureaucracies, laughed off SEC investigations, and mocked woke culture with meme replies that got more likes than CNN's prime time. But this was different. She didn't blink. She didn't shout. She came armed with evidence, and each fact had the sharpness of a scalpel. So Musk did what he always did when threatened. He mocked. Well, congratulations, he said, leaning back with a smirk. You've read some headlines and scrolled a few Reddit threads. I'm flattered. But if you think I'm going to apologize for running a private company the way I see fit, you're mistaken. Karoline just smiled. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. The silence only made him more uncomfortable. I mean, come on, he continued. What do you actually know about content moderation? Or machine learning models? Or running a platform used by hundreds of millions of people? This is the problem with political grifters. You talk like you've built something, but you've never even coded a login screen. Laughter flickered through the audience, but it was uneasy, forced. Karoline calmly turned to the moderator. May I respond? The moderator nodded. Go ahead. She stood up. I've never coded a login screen, she said. But I've studied the Constitution. I've lived under the rules that you, Mr. Musk, claim to defend while secretly rewriting behind the curtain a private enterprise. You don't get to claim neutrality while enforcing ideology. That's not freedom. That's fraud. Elon rolled his eyes. Look, this is just political theater. Karoline didn't back down. Then let's strip the politics. Let's look at what's real. You say your company is private. Fine. But you've taken billions in government subsidies. For Tesla. For SpaceX. For Starlink. You're publicly funded. And now you're publicly censoring. She stepped closer, voice rising. Not in anger, but in clarity. You're not a private citizen anymore. You're a state-adjacent oligarch pretending to be a libertarian. And people are starting to realize it. The audience gasped. Elon's smirk faded again. She turned directly to him. You want to know what I built? I built a movement. Not with bots. Not with algorithms. But with conviction. The kind you can't engineer in a lab. Musk's jaw tightened. You're twisting this. Am I? She asked, holding up another document. Here's an internal Slack message from your moderation team. Dated April 3rd. Flag all content linking Karoline Leavitt to religious liberty cases. Considered high risk for advertiser alignment. Would you like to explain that? The screen behind them, meant to display neutral graphics, was suddenly filled with a screenshot of the Slack message. One of Karoline's aides had sent it to the production team moments before. Elon stared at it, frozen. The moderator, desperate to regain control, stammered, "We will be right back after a commercial break." But the damage was already done. Karoline didn't destroy him with anger. She destroyed him with receipts. And Elon knew the world had just watched him flinch. Live. When the show returned from commercial, The energy in the studio had shifted. Gone was the playful tension of tech banter. In its place was something rawer. Musk looked rattled, fingers tapping the desk, eyes scanning the set like he wasn't sure who was still on his side. Karoline? She sat like a statue, poised, unmoved, binder still open, notes untouched. She didn't need them anymore. The moderator cleared his throat. We're back with our panel discussion on the future of free speech. Mr. Musk, before the break, you were given an opportunity to respond. Musk leaned forward, forcing a laugh that didn't quite land. Look, I respect passionate debate, he said, eyes darting to Karoline. But let's be honest, this isn't about free speech. This is about political theater. Ms. Leavitt is good at going viral. But let's talk about substance. Karoline didn't move. Musk continued, voice sharpening. This woman rails against censorship, but supports book bans in schools. She accuses platforms of silencing voices, yet cheers when drag shows are shut down. What she really wants is the freedom to control your speech, just not hers. A low murmur of approval trickled through part of the audience, mostly from the blue-check media class in the front row. They thought he'd found his footing, that he was landing blows now. Karoline waited. Then she stood, cool and unbothered. That was a nice pivot, she said calmly. But it's not going to save you. She turned to the moderator. May I clarify something for the record? Go ahead. Karoline looked at Elon. You're accusing me of hypocrisy. Fine. Let's compare. I support parental rights in education. You support labeling prayers as misinformation. I believe taxpayer-funded classrooms shouldn't indoctrinate children with hypersexualized ideologies. You believe a private tech empire should determine what citizens can say about their own biology. She took a step forward, slow and deliberate. You accuse me of wanting to control speech. But you've spent the last 2 years rewriting the digital public square under the banner of safety. She held up a printed screenshot of Musk's own tweet from months ago. We will amplify voices that align with platform integrity standards. She read it aloud. Amplify voices that align. That's not free speech. That's ideological grooming. And you know it. Must try to interrupt. That's not what I meant. She kept going. And when you couldn't silence people fast enough, you leaned into AI. You let machine learning algorithms decide what truth is. Elon Musk, the man who claimed to liberate Twitter, just built the most advanced speech filter in human history. The panelists were silent. The audience? Frozen. Karoline let it sit. Then she asked one final question. If you really believe in free speech, why are you so afraid of mine? The moderator looked stunned. Elon was speechless, and the live feed ticked on, capturing every heartbeat of the moment. What was supposed to be Elon Musk's intellectual playground had become his reckoning, and Karoline Leavitt had turned his own brand, X, the platform of free expression, into an exhibit of elite hypocrisy. The silence was deafening. Not the awkward kind that fills time between quips on a panel. No, this was the kind of silence that marks a shift, when power changes hands without anyone saying it out loud. Elon Musk, once the center of gravity on any stage he entered, now looked adrift. His posture slouched, his hands fidgeted, his eyes darted, not in control, but searching for an escape hatch. Karoline Leavitt had stripped away the mystique. And what remained? A tech king unmasked on his own throne. The moderator tried to steer things back to safe ground. Let's pivot to innovation. Mr. Musk, you've made bold claims about the future of AI. Could you speak to how that technology intersects with public discourse? It was a lifeline. Elon grabbed it. Yes, absolutely, he said, his voice tightening like a rope. AI is the next frontier. That's why we launched Grok, to empower people with information, to fight disinformation, and to preserve rational discourse. Karoline tilted her head. You mean to say, control the narrative faster than a human can type? He tried to ignore her. She pressed on. You embedded Grok into the platform, gave it access to direct messages, and let it label religious and political language as red flag content. You've created a surveillance model disguised as convenience. Elon scoffed, but it was forced. Grok is just a tool. You're turning it into a boogeyman. Karoline took a breath, then calmly replied. So was the Patriot Act. The audience gasped. For a moment, Musk looked genuinely stunned. That comparison, poetic, painful, landed hard. He opened his mouth to respond, but Karoline wasn't finished. You speak about innovation, she said. But innovation without ethics is tyranny in a lab coat. You want to upload our thoughts, inject Neuralink into our brains, and normalize AI-driven censorship, not to free humanity, but to profit from controlling it. Now, the panelists were staring at her, not in disagreement, but in disbelief that anyone would say this out loud on live television. You don't want to empower people, she continued. You want to automate them. Musk snapped. You know nothing about science. You're a talking point in lipstick. Gasps. The moderator's eyes widened. A few audience members murmured, some in shock, others in disgust. Karoline didn't flinch. She leaned in slowly. You just attacked me for my appearance because you couldn't answer a question. A long beat. Then, she dropped her voice to a near whisper. And that's what tyrants do when they're losing. The crowd erupted, not in wild applause, but in a wave of shocked approval. The kind of reaction that pulses through a room when the unspoken is finally said. The moderator, now visibly sweating, looked off stage. We will need to wrap shortly. But the damage had already been done. Elon Musk had tried to punch his way out, and Karoline Leavitt didn't even have to raise her voice. The debate officially ended at 9:03 p.m. Unofficially, it was just beginning. Before the credits even rolled, clips were already flooding social media. The takedown was too sharp, too clean, too surgical to ignore. Karoline Leavitt hadn't just debated Elon Musk. She dismantled him, piece by piece, word by word. And now, the world was watching it unfold in real time. Within 10 minutes, hashtag Karoline versus Elon was trending #1 on X. Ironically, on his own platform, Musk was now the target of a viral storm that even he couldn't algorithmically suppress. One user posted a clip of her Patriot Act line over slow piano music with the caption, "She didn't raise her voice. She raised the truth." It had 4.2 million views before midnight. Even accounts that had long defended Musk, tech influencers, podcast bros, anti-woke personalities, were uncharacteristically quiet. Some flipped. One tweeted, "I like Elon, but that was brutal." She brought receipts, he brought attitude. Legacy media tried to catch up. MSNBC aired a half-hearted segment, dismissing the exchange as another populist outburst. But even their panelists seemed uneasy. CNN's Don Wilkerson admitted, "Look, I don't agree with her politics, but that was clinical." Elon didn't have answers, and she didn't let him off the hook. But it wasn't just the pundits talking. Behind the scenes, real consequences were already taking shape. An internal memo from Tesla's PR division leaked to reporters. Avoid all mention of the Leavitt exchange. Reaffirm corporate commitment to free expression. At SpaceX, an emergency briefing was scheduled to review employee social media guidelines. Even advertisers took notice. One major sponsor of X quietly announced it was pausing campaigns, pending internal review of public brand alignment. Karoline, meanwhile, stayed silent. She didn't post a clip. She didn't issue a statement. She didn't have to. Because for once, the narrative wasn't being sculpted by PR firms or influencer accounts. It was raw, unfiltered footage, truth with a time code. But while the internet exploded, something more important happened quietly. In D.C., congressional staffers were already circulating transcripts of the exchange. A small but powerful block of legislators, those wary of big tech's unchecked power, found a new rallying cry in Karoline's performance. She didn't just make a point, one aide said. She made a roadmap. Senators began drafting letters, requests for hearings, subpoenas for platform moderation logs, and inquiries into Neuralink's federal partnerships. And Elon, he went dark. No tweets, no memes, no comments. For a man known to troll presidents, call journalists pedo, and ignite stock swings with emojis, that silence spoke volumes. In a single broadcast, Karoline Leavitt had done what no politician, journalist, or tech executive had ever done. She put the architect of the new digital order on trial, live. And he folded, not because she was louder, but because she was right. By sunrise the next day, the clip of Karoline's dismantling of Elon Musk had crossed 100 million views across platforms. This wasn't just a viral moment. It was a cultural detonation. Everywhere from cable news to coffee shops, people were asking the same question. Who is Karoline Leavitt? And how did she just humiliate the most powerful man in tech without raising her voice? Her name lit up the cheering on Fox News and Newsmax, but even more shockingly, it appeared on The View's Hot Topics list. The tone was predictably hostile, dangerous, extreme, far-right firebrand, but the fact they had to talk about her at all told the real story. She had pierced the veil. She had done what the establishment couldn't, proved that the emperor, for all his billions, had no clothes. And now, Karoline wasn't just trending. She was leading. That morning, she walked into a podcast studio, one of the few she trusted, not in designer clothes or campaign polish, but with the same quiet confidence she carried on that debate stage. She didn't gloat. She didn't celebrate. She simply told the truth. I wasn't there to embarrass Elon Musk. I was there to expose what happens when tech empires pretend to serve freedom while secretly engineering control. The host blinked. You're saying Musk is dangerous? Karoline didn't flinch. I'm saying centralized power always is. Whether it's in D.C. or Silicon Valley. Clips from that interview immediately caught fire. And for the first time, a new coalition began to form, not just of conservatives or libertarians, but of everyday Americans who had grown tired of shadow bans, of speech filtered through algorithms, of beliefs treated as threats. Truckers reposted her. Teachers whispered about her in union meetings. Church groups downloaded the debate and showed it after Sunday service. One evangelical pastor tweeted, "She didn't just defend faith, she showed the system what courage looks like." And then came the flood. Dozens of congressional offices contacted her within 48 hours. She wasn't even running yet, but they all saw the same thing. She had changed the conversation. Permanently. She hadn't come to the debate for airtime. She came with a blueprint. Now, political consultants were whispering about a national campaign. Not someday. Soon. She had the vision, the clarity, the strength, and, after last night, the momentum. And Elon. He finally broke his silence with a cryptic post on X. The pendulum swings. No context. No defense. No mention of her name. But everyone knew. It was about her. Because Karoline Leavitt had done what no regulation, protest, or lawsuit had achieved. She broke the illusion. She proved that truth, when wielded without fear, can still humble the mighty. And in that moment, a shift began. Not just in the polls. Not just in tech. In the culture itself. Because people didn't want perfection. They wanted someone unafraid. And after that night, they had found her. If you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe.